Good morning, welcome to KMP's workshop on social media marketing at the MDDA in Portland Street, Manchester. My name is Paul Fabretti. Just to give you a bit of background to today's workshop, what we'll be doing is in the same format as before, two halves. First off being an overview, what social media is, a bit of explanation, some case studies and just some examples of what people are doing. Then the second half will be really looking at how we can create a social media strategy, look at the information that we can gather, how we can actually monitor that information, and then go through a process of thinking of how we actually create it, what we need to consider when we're looking at the appropriate media channels, and then actually going through some practical steps of just simply setting up accounts and monitoring accounts and being able to just get things rolling. So I hope you'll come to the one on February the 11th. We're already sold out for January, but I look forward to seeing you again in the future. So the first question is what's social media? In some cases it might be actually best asking what isn't social media, but as I said before, it's not this groundbreaking, this earth-shattering, entirely new way of working or thinking, but really what it's social media is just, when you think of the words social, socializing, media tools, it's just a new way that people are finding to actually talk to each other and communicate. And because many of these tools are free, it's actually meaning that any Tom, Dick and Harry can actually create content and therefore be seen as this often used citizen journalist phrase. Forums are nothing new, but blogs, wikis, those kind of things are actually new ways that we can share content and actually talk to each other, actually express opinions that we might actually just keep to ourselves in a room. So one of the main things about social media is about distribution, and I'll go through some of these, and please, if any of these are entirely new or you've heard them before, please do chip in. We're a small enough group that it's actually great that we can kind of have a two-way thing rather than you listening to me rant for an hour and a half. But you'll probably all recognize the RSS icon. So RSS stands for really simple syndication. So this very easy and quick way that we can actually receive updated and new information. So on many websites now, certainly with blogs and many of the other tools, you'll see this icon, which means that when you click it, you can actually receive a feed of any new content that the website produces. So rather than having to go every day and kind of pick your daily paper, you might click on the RSS sports feed or the football feed so that you can get relevant stories sent to you rather than you having to go and chase it. We've got bookmarking, so social bookmarking. So when somebody might find something on a website that's of interest, they might bookmark that page. Now normally you would bookmark that to your browser just for you, but with social bookmarking, again this going back to this thing of distribution, what we can do with these kind of tools, and Delicious, this is the icon for one of them, allows us to actually tag that content for other people to find. So if you were, for example, on the KMP website and you were looking at one of the seminars, that's an interesting seminar, KMP, social media seminars, and you would tag it accordingly. So what people can then do when they go to the Delicious website is social media seminars, Manchester for example, and because you've tagged that content or that web page in a certain way, well, other people can then find it. So it's almost like an entirely user-generated search engine based on what people think a website is tagged. So two very, very powerful tools. Now Facebook, this is the Facebook icon, but really I'm not talking especially about Facebook in this instance. What I'm talking about is the way that you can bookmark stories to Facebook. So many of you, I'm sure, have got Facebook profiles, but what you'll see in say, the BBC website, for example, at the bottom of a story, there's a series of icons, and typically these are probably some of them. But what they allow you to do is to share an interesting story or an article with your friends. So by clicking on that icon, we're actually telling our friends on Facebook, I find this really interesting. I think you as my friends would be interested in this kind of story. So again, we've gone from sort of fairly general consumption and sort of slightly more specific by keyword targeting, down to very, very friend-relevant content, which is helping to make what we create more relevant to you and your friends. And on the right there, many of you have probably heard of Dig, but Dig really is a fundamental sort of user-generated news website, really. And what happens is that people who read a story, and in the same way that they might add it to Delicious or they might add it to Facebook, they can what they call dig a story. So I actually want to send that story to the Dig news site. And so when people see a story on Dig, KMP's social media workshop in Manchester, somebody might go, yeah, I think that's a really interesting article. I'll dig that as well. And as the story builds more and more, as more and more people dig the story by literally just clicking on a button, the story rises through the ranks. And so what is relevant to a certain audience, and Dig categorizes its content, say, by news, sport, technology, business, entertainment. The relevant hot stories, or the most frequently digged stories, rise to the top. So it's this, our peers can actually tell us what we actually think is relevant and interesting. So moving on from that, we've got alternative methods of distribution. On the left, well, we've got two different types of widgets here. So widgets are literally just a way to, when we take the feed, so remember the RSS icon, the orange icon, when we take that feed, we can actually put it into a widget so that what we can do is have other people share that content. So if we have a blog or a website or another, any kind of online medium, we can take our feed and put it into one of these. Now all these are just news stories that an RSS feed has created. And what it allows us to do is put that on the website, but what you can do is copy that. So if I have visitors to my blog, as I do, and I have a widget that displays the latest technology news, for example, if somebody else wants to copy that widget because they like some of the stories that are in there, they can take that, it gives you a small piece of code, and you can embed that into your own blog or your own website. So by creating something that allows people to copy and distribute your news, you're actually spreading your wings far wider than you might be able to if you were just a standard web page on its own. Now what we've got here is, albeit a Mac desktop, but with Vista and Windows 7 you can create widgets yourself, but what we can do is actually start to tailor information. So in the principle of a widget feeding information, and you've probably seen it, I mean, donkeys years ago, the BBC News ticker, delivering relevant headlines and stories to your desktop. And that's what each of these do. We've got calendar, we've got travel information, we've got translation tools. So we can actually start to deliver relevant, targeted information to people on their own computers. And there's a hotel chain that we're working with to actually do exactly that kind of thing. So based on when you sign up, you will express an interest in theatre breaks, family breaks, skiing holidays, whatever. And we're actually able, through the widget, to be able to deliver targeted messages to that individual. So we can send something on a Thursday or a Friday for a last-minute break, for example, because it's on their desktop and it's something that's relevant and interesting to them. So we're really sort of narrowing the ability to personalize the content incredibly. And this is, I'm not sure if many people have seen Google Reader. So have you heard of the term feed reader? So the RSS feed, which is this sort of strip or this list of content, what we can do is almost sort of read all the Sunday papers in one fell swoop by adding a feed to a feed reader. So here we have this add subscription. So when we click on the orange icon, if we have a feed reader account, and Google Reader is just one of them, what we can do is add all the interesting news stories, sports stories, or any kind of stories that have a feed into the feed reader. So as you can see here, there's probably about 10 blogs here that I can read, and I mean, God knows how many others. I mean, there's 106 stories there. So I can quickly consume the news of the world, the Times, the Guardian, the Sport, whatever it may be, very, very quickly, or even actually create folders so I can look at specifically sports stories or technology stories. So it's a great way for people to be able to consume your frequently updated data or information in a very easy way. And search has evolved as well. Search is much more than just the little box in the top there. This is Google, iGoogle. There is a search box there, so it's gone from just the standard white page with the logo and the search box in. So I can now add, these are all RSS feeds that I can add. So every time I want to open my window and a browser window and do a search, for example, I can now add feeds. So again, they could be relevant news stories or weather stories or whatever it may be, so that we're adding some additional ways to distribute our content. We can play video within these, we can do all sorts of things with them.